You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I'm your host tonight. My name is Nick Walsh, and I am here by myself because the boys and I had a pretty big weekend, so we're going to keep this nice and short for you guys tonight. All I'm going to be doing here is previewing the Thursday night football game, the first game of the season. So that's going to be the Packers and the Bears. The Bears are the home team there, but I'll get into it in just a moment. If you're looking for the rest of the weekly preview, that'll be coming out later in the week. Again, the backstory there is that everyone involved in this podcast had quite the weekend. They all flew out to San Francisco, where I live. We got ourselves a big old Airbnb, did some lovely activities throughout the city, drafted our core league that we all take part in, and had ourselves maybe a little bit too good of a time. So with that being in mind, this is sort of the content we can get to right now, and we'll make sure to get the rest out as the week goes on, so keep an eye out for it. But I'm here to get you through the starts and the sits, the advice going around the Thursday night game. Again, that is the Packers at the Bears. The Bears are currently a 3-point favorite. The over-under in that game is 46.5 points. So not terribly high scoring or low scoring, and it looks like, with the Bears being at home, Vegas does expect a win there. I'm hoping it's a close game. It seems like it should be. It's pretty exciting to see, a new offense in Green Bay, hopefully a healthier team there. So we'll start on the Green Bay side of the ball, and we'll start, as we normally do, at quarterback with Aaron Rodgers. So, as I said, brand new offense. Aaron Rodgers is 35 years old. He did not really play at all in the preseason, so we don't really know exactly how this is going to look. But Aaron Rodgers, is a generational quarterback. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I know there are arguments out there that he has declined in the past couple of years. I think you can argue that either way, in terms of the health around him and maybe the coaching around him, that sort of thing, or whether it really is his own decline that has caused maybe the lack of stellar play. But look, even with all that, Aaron Rodgers was drafted as the quarterback 3 most places this year, behind just Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. So if you drafted him at quarterback 3, I know it's a tough matchup, but I really doubt you're starting anyone else. The only situation, and maybe I would, is if you drafted a backup like Jameis, or a backup like, I don't know, like Garoppolo or Cam, or someone who, maybe Goff, who are in, these projected high scoring matchups. But other than that, Rodgers is your guy. Roll with him. I think the same sort of thing goes for Devontae Adams. If you drafted him, it's a tough matchup. Again, the Bears are very, very good on defense, though I think that will regress a little bit this year. But again, if you did draft Adams, he's your guy week 1. Roll with him. I wouldn't advise benching him at any point, really. Now there are 2 wide receivers outside of that are a bit relevant and got drafted on the Green Bay side. So I think there's a better argument here for playing Geronimo Allison than there is for Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And the reason that I say that is because Geronimo Allison is going to be in the slot. The Bears are a little bit weaker at slot corner. They sort of downgraded to Buster Skrine, who's been a bit of a sieve in the past. So we'll see how that works out for them. But particularly with the Bears pass rush, they don't really tend to give up a ton of big plays. I expect Marquez Valdes-Scantling's role this year to be a bit more of a downfield threat. So I'm not really about playing him, if you did draft him in that 9th to 12th round sort of area. But Geronimo Allison, not that you would really need to play him, but I think he could be a good flyer. Or maybe if you're playing a daily, or a daily slate that includes that Thursday night game, don't hate Geronimo Allison there, as you would expect Rodgers to need to get the ball out of his hands pretty quickly against that elite Bears pass rush. At tight end, you've got Jimmy Graham. He was probably not drafted in your league and should definitely not be started here. And then at running back, we've got Aaron Jones. So it is a tough matchup for him, but we've seen him, really be productive in the past when he's gotten a good opportunity. He's healthy after an early camp hamstring injury, and he really should be getting the bulk of these carries here. Rookie Dexter Williams didn't do much to force himself into a role during camp and during the preseason. And we're very aware of who Jamal Williams is at this point. He's sort of a plotter, a slow guy. So despite the tough matchup, I think you can safely start Aaron Jones if you do need to. If you did draft him as one of your top 2 or top 3 guys, I would say that I'm not against benching him. Like, I don't think it's the worst idea if, say, you went very running back heavy. If he's your third running back and you have someone else that you can put in your flex in a good matchup, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I wouldn't recommend benching him for anyone outside of an elite matchup, though. All right, I think that should do it for the Packers. Let's move to the Bears side of the ball. Mitchell Trubisky, his floor here is very low, and you're going to hear us say this a million times this year. His floor is low, but the Packers D isn't great, and we know that he has a very high ceiling. So he's not a must start, but you're not really killing yourself by starting him too. I don't think I'd be playing him over some other popular late round guys like Jameis or Jimmy Garoppolo even. You'll hear me keep mentioning them week 1. They're playing each other in a projected shootout game. So I'm sure, if you're stacking things in daily fantasy or whatnot, you'll see a lot of game stacks built around that game. But yeah, I think if you have guys like those, or maybe they're available, those are better starts this week, but you could do worse with Trubisky. It's entirely possible they get a couple of big plays in there. I'm interested to see how that works out, as it seemed like a lot of their big plays last year were based on sort of trickery and creative play calling by Matt Nagy. I'm interested to see that after a year of having sort of film on Nagy and his play calling tendencies, whether that sort of stuff goes away or whether it continues this year. Moving to the pass catchers, Allen Robinson, I think is as close to a must start as you get for, one of these wide receivers who is somewhere between like the 5th to 7th round. He's fully healthy here. Green Bay's cornerbacks aren't really guys we need to worry about, or at least haven't shown that they are to this point, though they are both young. And Allen Robinson down the stretch in the last 4 games of the season had between 7 and 9 targets in every single one of those games. It's a small sample size, but it seems to apply that either, he was getting healthier as the season went along after he had that ACL tear the year before. It's possible that it meant that he was building some chemistry with Mitch Trubisky as the season went on. I think no matter what, it's a good sign. And I think no matter what, Allen Robinson should be a guy that you are getting into your lineup this week in order to try and take advantage of these matchups against the Packers cornerbacks. I could very, very easily see him be, getting a handful of red zone targets against this defense. Anthony Miller had a preseason injury early in the preseason. That being said, he's been cleared, and he's going to face off with Tramon Williams in the slot. You may remember Tramon Williams from being an elite shutdown corner about a decade ago. He's 36 now. I just have a tough time believing that a 36-year-old slot cornerback is going to be able to keep up with a quick, shifty guy like Anthony Miller. So I think Anthony Miller has a chance to, produce in this matchup. If you drafted him, it was probably late, and I don't think you need to start him. I think the point more this week is if he does produce, that's a good sign for you going forward, and maybe a sign that you can start considering him in matchups where, it's a good matchup in the slot. Taylor Gabriel, he should be the other outside starting receiver. Not really sure how you predict him. He's sort of a deep play and gadget play guy. I mentioned I'm a little interested to see how those gadget plays type of things work this year with Matt Nagy. Either way, I'm not really sure how to predict Gabriel, and I wouldn't want to be playing him particularly in week 1. And then at the tight end position, Trey Burton is currently limited in practice with a groin injury. And if you remember back to last year, as someone who was really high on him last year, he wasn't particularly productive, particularly down the stretch. I think he was very, very touchdown dependent because he had a very low target volume. And that's not really someone I want to be going after, particularly when they have an injury. If he doesn't go, you would think Adam Shaheen, who is the second year tight end, who's sort of a big athletic guy. I believe he's 6'6", runs pretty well. You would think he would likely start, but based on the tight end volume that we got last year for Trey Burton, I don't think that Adam Shaheen is a guy that I would consider picking up early in the season, unless Burton stays hurt. And Shaheen really shows that he can get some sort of target volume in this offense that likes to spread the ball around a lot more. In the running game, David Montgomery, the rookie out of Iowa State, he's got a real tasty matchup. They're a home favorite against the defense that was 23rd in the defensive run DVOA. That's Football Outsider stats last year. So it should be a good matchup. The Packers did do a lot to improve their defensive line this year, but I think it is going to really affect the pass rush a little bit more. They drafted Rashawn Gary early. We'll sort of see how that all works out, but I think it's sort of a prove it situation with the Packers defense at this point. Until they show me this year that they can stop the run, I'm going to keep trying to play guys against them. So it's a good matchup for David Montgomery. And if you drafted him, you probably did it pretty early. I would be trying to fit him into my lineup. I think out of the guys who were drafted in, very similar range here, David Montgomery and Aaron Jones, I would have Montgomery ranked ahead of Jones this week. The concern with him really is he going to get 100% of the work? The Bears have raved about him. We've seen him be great in the preseason. I think there's no reason not to just sort of unleash this guy and try and ride him this year and really, take some of the weight off Trubisky, maybe allow him to be a bit more efficient of a passer. But we'll see. NFL coaches sometimes do puzzling things. I think Matt Nagy's a pretty smart guy. I would expect him to really just go with David Montgomery and see what happens from there. The other guys in this backfield are Tariq Cohen. I'm mildly tempted, but I avoided Tariq Cohen throughout the entire offseason. But the Packers don't really have great cover linebackers. That being said, he's a boom-bust option, and I don't think you should really be playing him unless you're absolutely forced to, because what you're looking for is you get lucky and you get a long touchdown. I think more than anything else, that's really where Tariq Cohen is going to make it worth it this week if he does. And then the other option there is Mike Adams. He's sort of been pushed to the back of the attention with David Montgomery being so good. But again, Montgomery's a rookie running back. Adams could steal some of this early down work or even late down work. Adams is a pretty good pass catcher. He's a pretty good runner. He showed it with the Seahawks last year. He's not a bad running back, so I don't think we can completely write him off despite the hype for David Montgomery and despite the fact that I just said I think you should play David Montgomery. That's where the concern comes in here, is that Adams might take some work, and we need to pay attention a lot to the snaps and the work split here in order to project the Bears' offense going forward. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for the Thursday night preview. I think the Bears are going to win this game. I hope it's a fun one. I kind of hope to see the Packers, do some innovative things on offense, though with the way LaFleur coached in Tennessee last year, who knows? But we'll see. We'll see what happens here, and I'm excited for it. So, guys, enjoy that first week. Enjoy the first Thursday night game. We'll be sure to preview the rest of the games for you and have that up later in the week. Make sure you're setting your lineups, and best of luck to everyone. For Let's Talk Fantasy Football, I'm Nick Walsh. Later, podcast.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.